What is going on, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome to a brand new deck profile video. Today I'm very excited to finally bring you guys the update to my Photon Galaxy Therion deck profile. This is sort of picking up where we left off after the last installment of One Deck One Month, which I think was the actual last one that I did, was for Photon Galaxy. We will of course be picking up with that series soon-ish. We will be doing Gold Pride Punk, but that's besides the point. I'm very excited to finally share with you guys a new build of Photon Galaxy, and obviously we did get a new piece of support for the deck, which is great. You always have to take Photon Galaxy support, though, with a bit of a grain of salt, because it's not always the end-all be-all, but Photon Jumper, the new card we got in the new Battles of Legends set, definitely changes, in my opinion, the way this deck is played and the way you can build it, and the different lines that you can do. It isn't the, the complete end-all be-all, the quick fix to make this deck better. The deck still, of course, has problems, unfortunately. But it does make the deck a little bit more solid and a little bit more consistent. It makes its two-card combos a little bit better. So I think that's good. It's a step in the right direction. The deck still needs a little work, and this is my sort of personal spin on the deck. There are, of course, tons of different builds I've seen of this deck, tons of different ways that you can play it. I've seen a lot of different deck profiles, and I've gotten a lot of feedback from people on my stream and things like that. So there's tons of different ways you can play it, but this is my own personal take behind an idea of how I wanted certain cards to interact with other cards in the deck and certain different archetypes and small interactions that I wanted to piece together and make that the purpose of this build. And I'll try to explain that when we get into the actual card by card. And I won't be doing test hands in this video. That will be saved for a separate video that hopefully I'll be filming right after I film this. So with all that being said, we are going to hop into the deck list, starting with the monsters. And a real quick reminder, if you guys like the video, go ahead and drop a thumbs up down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So first things first, we've got 3 copies of Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon. Yeah, I mean, it's a no-brainer why we play 3. This card is, I want to say, and I've always said it really, is kind of like an engine requirement for the deck. This card just being in our hand and our deck and our graveyard lets us do a lot of things. And yeah, just a good card all around. Sometimes it's good discard fodder for things like Galaxy Soldier, etc., etc. So yeah, you just want to play 3 of this card. I have seen some people play 2, but in very short amount of time in testing, sometimes you do miss that 3rd copy quite a bit. If you're not resolving Vanishers, you don't have a target to summon off of Afterglow, right? Like that can be a little awkward sometimes. Even siding one out can be a little bit weird. So it's always been a solid 3 of, in my personal opinion. So we play 3 of those, and then moving on, we have just 2 copies of Photon Emperor. In the past, I think I've always played 1 copy of Emperor, which I think is fine. But for the way this particular build is set up, I wanted to play an extra copy, and you'll see why in a little bit. And I also think with how popular Bestials are, and if your opponent has a Brain and they're siding Bestials for the branded matchup, they're definitely going to be siding in the Bestials for this particular deck. So having multiple copies of Emperor, I think, does go a long way in that sense, because if they stop the first one, you still have access to a second one. And also, since, Jumper is a thing now, Galaxy 100, as many of you know, has become a much better card in the deck. And sometimes having another one of these in the deck makes those late game copies of Galaxy 100 just that much better. So it also is great in that sense. So yeah, just 2 copies of the Photon Emperor. Then I play 1 copy of Galaxy Brave. I feel like Galaxy Brave, in my personal opinion, doesn't get enough love as it should. This card I like a lot, mainly because Galaxy Soldier sometimes just isn't as good as a card as people make it out to be. Because it's only usually as good as the cards it's able to search. In some cases, if you're just starting, per se, Galaxy Soldier ditch Emperor or ditch Jumper, it's a really great start to your play. But sometimes if you've already normal summoned, right, you've normal summoned your Wizard, your Brave, or you could have normal summoned, or not Brave, sorry, if you're normal your Summoner, or you had to normal something like a Jumper, for example, right? The cards that you're searching off of Galaxy Soldier are very limited in what you can grab. Sometimes you could go for another Galaxy Soldier, right, if you want to make a rank 5 play, or get another body on field to make a level 8 with the Galaxy Photon Dragon, right? It can be a little awkward, so I find sometimes, depending on what you have in hand, searching Galaxy Brave can be really, really good. And Brave, I think, gets a lot better in builds nowadays because we have more Photon monsters in the main deck than we have ever had before. We have Emperor, we have Jumper, we have Vanisher, we have Orbital, right? So we have more Photon monsters in the deck to make this card live, and it can also become a level 4 while also simultaneously being a level 8, which is very, very important in this particular build. Then moving on, we have just one copy of Galaxy Eyes Afterglow Dragon. If I could play a theoretical 41st card, it might just be a second copy of this card, but the only thing that's keeping me from doing that is I want to keep the deck A as consistent as possible, and B, this card definitely can lead to some brick hands. There are quite a few cards in this deck that don't do anything unless you already have a certain like monster on field, and that's a problem, right? So I wanted to cut down on those types of cards as much as possible, at least where I could. And you don't always need this card for your turn 1 setup. You can always just leave it in deck or leave it in hand and save it next turn to try to go for a game, because that's what this card helps you do. You know, detaching in the battle phase, doubling the attack of all numbered Xyz monsters you control, getting your monsters up to like 11,000 plus, swinging over big bodies just to go for game, and it gets you an extra Galaxy Eyes out of your hand or deck, which is great. So fantastic card all around. But again, the other reason why I wanted to shy away from playing a second copy is we can recycle this card rather easily with Soul Flare. So if you do use it turn 1, you can link into a Soul Flare next turn, add it back, and you can easily summon it already since you have Galaxy Eyes Soul Flare on board. Now moving forward, we have arguably one of the best cards in the deck in terms of just Galaxy monsters outright. And this card gets even better because we have Jumper now, which is a card that says it gets its effect when it's sent to the graveyard. So what better way to send Jumper to the graveyard outside of Galaxy 100 than to do it with Galaxy Soldier? Activate the effect, discard it, right? Chainlink 1 Soldier, Chainlink 2 Jumper, or you can discard the Emperor. Works great with Emperor too. And I kind of wanted to play into that, you know, that factor, seeing Soldier and Emperor, Soldier and Jumper together more often, but, you know, still remains to be one of the best Galaxy cards in the deck. I just wish it could search Galaxy or Photon monsters to make this card literally insane. But again, that is why I play the Brave, because it's a really good extender in some situations that Galaxy Soldier can grab you when no other card really fits the bill as a good extender to be able to search. So I'm not actually playing Cyber Dragon Infinity either right now. I do like that card a lot. And you could argue Galaxy Soldier is a great way to make it, but again, with the Galaxy Summoner and Galaxy Photon Dragon, we can modify this card's level to be able to make rank 4s or rank 8s with it, so that really isn't an issue in my book. But if you are playing, you know, Cyber Dragon Infinity or any rank 5 like Pleiades, it does help to make those cards. And moving on, we have the one and only Photon Jumper. Here we are with 3 copies of this card. I was back and forth on playing one of this versus 3, and the reason why I thought about playing 1 was because we're pretty much always trying to just send this off of the Galaxy 100, and that was it. Like, you didn't really want to draw this card, but this card is a good normal summon on its own because it's a level 4. It's also a warrior, which means we can search it with Rhoda, and that's kind of nice too. And it also pairs again with things like Thrasher, Vanisher, and Galaxy Brave to help make your Galaxy Photon Dragon, and then we can detach this off the Galaxy Photon Dragon and get 2 cards off of sort of that one little interaction. So I really like it for that as being a 3-up. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to play multiple copies, because again, we can send it off 100, or seeing in the opening hand either normal summon in a lot of situations, or discarding it off of the Galaxy Soldier is still a really, really solid line. And yeah, so for those that don't know what this card does though, if it is sent to the graveyard, we can add a Photon or Galaxy spell / trap from our deck to our hand. It also has a neat battle phase effect. It says when your opponent declares an attack, you can activate this effect, skip your next battle phase, also special summon this card from your hand, then end the battle phase. So it's kind of a secret effect. Everybody knows the second effect, but that effect is actually kind of interesting. Of course, it does cost you your next battle phase, which is unfortunate considering this deck really thrives in the battle phase. It's like a battle phase type deck. But, you know, it's interesting sometimes when you open rather poor, this can be kind of a clutch effect to have, and it summons itself to the field, right, as a free body. Now moving on, we have 3 copies of Photon Orbital, still hands down one of the best searchers in the deck. And also, this card is sort of one of the main reasons why I'm playing the Therion build, because it is a machine and it does get an effect while it is equipped to search for a Photon or Galaxy monster. And I just wish it didn't have that requirement where you have to like equip it to something to be able to search, because you know the fact that it can search Photon and or Galaxy monsters is so amazing. It would be better than Galaxy Soldier at that point if it could just like discard itself to search. That would have made this card way better. And but you know, it is what it is. So that's why we have to build the deck the way that we do. Play a lot of cards that help us put bodies on field to make cards like this live as often as possible. And again, since we are playing 300 now, because we have Jumper as another good target to be able to send off of it, I wanted to play the Therion build in that sense, because we can use the 100 to dump Orbital as another target to be able to make Therion King Regulus live, and equip it and get a search, right, and start playing that way. So yeah, that's why I'm playing the 3 Orbital. It kind of has that dual purpose in this build, not only to help as a way to make your Photon Galaxy Engine work, but also to make your Therion cards live. So then we have 2 copies of Photon Vanisher. I wanted to play a third one, but I'm playing Rhoda, so it kind of just makes up as the third Vanisher. And I did order Ultra Rares, I don't have them yet. Then we have 2 copies of Galaxy Wizard. I wanted to cut down on Wizard just because you usually can get to this card off of Galaxy Soldier if you don't already have it, and you can get it off the rank 4 if you don't already have it. And I didn't want to clog on playing multiples of these. I was even at a point where I was playing just one, because sometimes normal summoning your Photon Jumper is just as good, but this is still a really insane starter, and it gets your plays going. So I definitely want to still play at least 2 just to see it somewhat more often. And then we have 1 Galaxy Summoner. I think this is always a solid one of in the deck. And then we have 1 copy of Thrasher. Again, I am playing Rhoda, so it's like I'm playing 2 copies. And again, I want to be able to see cards that get bodies on the field to be able to make the rest of our cards live. So yeah, 1 Thrasher, technically 2 again with the Rhoda. And then the last monster in the main deck, last monster, is 3 copies of Therion King Regulus. And the reason why I'm playing 3 will be made clear in just a moment when we get into the spell lineup. But again, this is really important for the deck, not only because, again, it's a level 8, but because we are playing the 300 now. So again, we can send the Orbital, use Regulus to equip to it, and give ourselves an Omni Negate to help play through hand traps and help put up a Omni Negate on our end board, which this deck really struggles to do sometimes unless you play Cyber Dragon Infinity. But the thing I don't like about Infinity, and the thing that I've really always disliked about it ever since we were playing the card in the deck, is the fact that it takes up 2 extra deck slots when you could be playing other, you know, more toolboxy cards in your extra deck that help you in more situations. So being able to play this in the main deck as a way to have an Omni Negate on board and establish one, and while saving on extra deck space, I think is like a great sort of like compromise. And again, it does have synergy with the Photon Orbital. And of course, you can also equip things like Galaxy Soldier if you need to, you know, Galaxy Soldier, pitch Galaxy Soldier, etc., etc. So 3 Therion King Regulus. And yeah, haven't been able to use all 3 in a deck in a long time, so really cool to be able to do that. But yeah, that is it for the monsters in the deck. And now we're going to go ahead and take a look at the spells and traps in the deck here. Well, mainly just the spells, as we aren't playing any traps in the main deck. So to start with the spells, we have 3 copies of Galaxy 100. And ever since we got Jumper, right, this card has become a starter card, most definitely. And before we weren't playing 3, or some people played 2. I think I played 2 for a little bit, but originally played 1 because it was, again, searchable, and its only good target to send most of the time was just Emperor. But now that we have Jumper, and Jumper can search Trance, right, which Trance brings out the Jumper and like a Wizard, or brings out Jumper and Summoner, right, makes this card a lot better. So seeing this card in the opening hand has just become a lot better. And again, if we open up Regulus and 100, we can use the 100 to dump the Orbital, and then use the Regulus to target the Orbital and equip it and start playing that way. It gets you access to something like Summoner, and then you can normal summon the Summoner, bring back the Orbital, and then make a rank 4 at that point, and, you know, search another card for whatever best fits your hand. So yeah, that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to continue playing the Therion cards, is because not only is this good for just sending things like Emperor or Jumper, but sending Orbital is also great to fuel Regulus plays. And then moving on here, we have another 3-of, which is 3 copies of Trade-In. Now, I still kind of firmly believe that Pot of Prosperity is like a really, 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 really good consistency card for this deck. But I will also admit that Pot of Prosperity is annoying. You know, having to pick and choose between which cards you want to have in your extra deck for the rest of the game is kind of annoying. I will admit that. And now this card does have its downsides as well. Sometimes you'll draw this with no level 8s, and sometimes your Trade-In won't draw you in anything good. Those 2 cards that you get just don't get you anywhere. But I wanted to play Trade-In because I was like, you know what? I'm going to play the Therion build. And Regulus also happens to be a level 8. So we're also increasing our level 8 count. And sending Regulus to grave off Trade-In does have its perks, because if we see another Regulus or search it off of the Gigantic Champion, we can summon Regulus by equipping a Regulus to it. And then we have an Omni Negate on our turn by sending off the Regulus that's equipped. And then we have an Omni Negate again on the opponent's turn by sending off the Regulus that's on board, or, you know, any other combination of that, right? And also there's good synergy by sending the Galaxy Eyes for making it live for Trance, or Galaxy Zero, right? Or sending the Emperor, which is another really, really strong discard outlet or discard target for Trade-In, because it does have that graveyard effect. And again, another one of the reasons why I wanted to play 2 copies of that in the actual main deck. So yeah, Trade-In, that's my consistency card of choice for this particular build, because I am, again, playing the Therion cards, and I think there's a good enough synergy there, you know, with Trade-In in the deck. So now moving on, we are playing 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet, because as you saw, I am not playing any hand traps, and that did not come as an easy decision. I think in order to make a deck competitive, you have to play a lot of hand traps in it, and it's just the way that this particular build is set up and the way that I've set it up, there aren't a lot of room for hand traps, and I really couldn't justify playing like 3 Ash and 2 Imperm, right? Because yes, those are good cards, but when we're playing so little hand traps, right, it just doesn't make sense. Like, because I feel like right now in the way the format is, you want to see at least 2 hand traps together, and if I'm only playing 5 hand traps, the odds of seeing 2 hand traps together is pretty unlikely. But if I see one really solid board breaker, sometimes that's all I really need to see. And I was going to play Dark Ruler because, you know, Dark Ruler is just Dark Ruler. But Droplet has more synergy in this deck because we can send things to the graveyard like Jumper, like Emperor, like Orbital or Regulus to set up for a ton of different plays. That graveyard setup is very, very important. Now, I will also say, with Arise Heart being in the meta like it currently is, you could also argue this is not a good idea, but Arise Heart is only made in one deck, and I'm fully accepting that if my opponent makes Arise Heart turn 1, and I lost die roll, and I see this in my opening hand, it is what it is, and I probably wasn't winning either way. So yeah, that's just how I'm putting it, and it just goes really good, though, against pretty much any other deck that isn't Kashtira. And of course, if you get D-Shifted, you're not losing because you're playing Droplet, you're losing because D-Shifter just beats the deck anyways. So that's the way I look at it. So yeah, 3 Droplet as, you know, a board breaker, and then I'm also playing 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent, because again, hand traps are very, very good against this deck. Sometimes a single Ash can be a turn ender, so having something like Talents to be able to dig further into more cards is always nice, and we get to punish our opponent because they don't know what our cards do, so if they hand trap at an incorrect point, we oftentimes can just take a look at the hand and just rip a card out for free and keep playing. And then last but not least, we have 3 1-ofs here for our Galaxy sort of spells, as cards to be able to search off of Jumper, you know, grab what we need at any given point. We have Expedition. I still think this is a card that if I could, I would play a second copy of, because we want to get to Wizard a lot. Wizard ends up being a really strong normal summon sometimes, and if you see it with Expedition, it's just like a much better card because you can make it a level 8, summon out a soldier, get a search, then tribute off, and go ahead and grab another card. So you kind of get like double use out of Wizard. But I think 1 is fine now, just as a search target off of Jumper. Galaxy Zero is great. I played this in the past, and it was a card for a little while that, you know, I played it in a tournament, and I didn't have Galaxy Zero, and I completely regretted not having it. This card is just great sometimes in the grind game, bringing back things for free. And then you have Galaxy Trance, which is a card that I still have mixed feelings on. You know, obviously with the Therion stuff, if you go for Therion lines or Gigantic Champion, you can't use this, but that's fine. Sometimes saving it for turn 3 ends up being a lot better, but it's still in the deck because if our hand is bad enough, we can just go 100, dump Jumper search this, and then activate it to go ahead and go for a rank 4 play into the, you know, the, the Galaxy Photon Dragon, and try to play out from there. I know there is Numbers Last Hope. That is a card that I don't currently have. I would like to continue to test it at some point in the future. It does have, I think, better synergy in this deck because you can actually like target Regulus Engrave to revive Regulus in another level 8 to Ixie summon. So that is something that I might actually look to add into this deck and replace Galaxy Trance. Because the turn long restriction Galaxy Trance has, like, borderline makes this card really bad. And it's annoying that it has that restriction, but obviously it is what it is, right? So I think it's fine as a 1-up for now. And sometimes you'll need to use it right off the bat, turn 1. Sometimes you won't, and you want to keep it in the deck as a power play turn 3. And then the last spell in the deck is one Reinforcement of the Army, because we have quite a few search targets in the deck, obviously. We have the Thrasher, we have Photon Vanisher, we have Jumper, right? So we have quite a few targets for this, and this kind of like ups the number of any given warrior target in the deck by 1. So that is it for the main deck. Now we're going to go ahead and jump into the extra deck where things are, you know, I would say pretty standard still. Nothing super crazy out of the ordinary changes that I've made in the extra. But we're going to start by taking a look at our Link monsters, which is still just 2 copies of the Galaxy Eyes Soulflare Dragon. And yeah, I don't think you'll ever need more than 2. I don't think playing 1 is correct. And I think 3 is probably overkill. I don't remember the last time I ever summoned a 3rd Galaxy Eyes Soulflare Dragon. Yeah, and if it was, that was probably just wasn't a real match, honestly. So yeah, 2 copies of Galaxy Eyes Soulflare Dragon. And then I am playing 2 rank 4s here. Well, I'm technically playing 3, but the first 2 are obvious, right? Starleech Photon Blast Dragon and Galaxy Photon Dragon. I've actually thought about playing 2 now that we have Jumper, right? And we have more level 4s in the deck. And with all the level 4s in the deck and the way we put them on field very easily, sometimes it's awkward not having another rank 4 to go into sometimes. I thought about maybe playing Exciton, which I've seen some people play, a 2nd Galaxy Photon Dragon, which I've seen some people play. But right now, and again, you could play any one of those things. Like, nothing here is set in stone as the absolute end-all be-all. But I'm playing the number 41 Bagooska, the Terribly Tired Tap here. It says, turn all your cards horizontally, right? So that's why I'm playing this. You just, if you open poor, if you get hand trapped, if you get drolled, right, which is a really good card against this deck, if you get hit with like D-Shifter, being able to like make this to stall sometimes, not only to like beat things like Droll or D-Shifter and punish those cards, but if you open up really bad and you can stick 2 level 4s on field, you know, making Bagooska sometimes isn't a bad play. It's not a terrible play, right? So this could be, again, Exciton. It could be another Galaxy Photon Dragon. It could not be another rank 4. It could be something else entirely. It's up to you, but I'm currently opting to play the Bagooska technique. And now we have 1 copy of Gigantic Champion Sargus. And yeah, it's obviously to search out Regulus in some lines where you don't hard open it. And the other effect when you detach an Ixie's monster, or materials detached from an Ixie's monster, the fact that you can target a card your opponent controls and bounce it, or shuffle it back in the deck is really solid. It makes your end boards a little bit better, especially end boards that end on number 90. Right, when you detach and negate, you get an additional interruption with the Sargus. So yeah, 1 Sargus. And then I played 1 number 90, and I saw a profile earlier when they were like, you know, how many times do you really summon the 2nd number 90? And I was like, you know what? You're probably right, and I really don't recall times where I actually end up making the 2nd copy of this card. So I think you could definitely get away with 1, and this card has still not gotten a reprint. It's still ridiculously expensive, and you definitely don't need 2. I think you get away with just 1, but you're always making the 1, right? So I think 1's fine for now. And 1 number 38, Hope Harbinger, just for an additional interruption. Number 62 and number C62 is your little OTK package that you're always going to be summoning going 2nd. And then we have like the Cypher package, the Ixie's Change package. You have the Cypher X, Cypher, and Cypher Blade. I wanted to actually play this again, just because, again, Kashtira is still so good, and this card, making your entire field not be able to be targeted, is kind of insane. It makes, like, Fenrir just completely useless, so this card is really kind of nice for that. And it also gives you the opportunity to detach Afterglow turn 1 to make more bodies, and you can still do that under Trance because it's a Galaxy Eyes monster, whereas before with, like, we could only do that with Felgran. So yeah, that's why I'm playing this. And then Cypher Dragon, still good with a lot of Ixies monsters in the format right now, and Cypher Blade is just Cypher Blade. And then we play the full armor. This arguably doesn't have to be in here. You could play the second number 90, you could play another Galaxy Photon Dragon, which the more I think about it is more enticing, the second copy of Galaxy Photon Dragon, but you know, this isn't bad either. And then one Divine Arsenal, a Zeus Sky Thunder, which you could arguably play a second one of these too. The extra deck is surprisingly flexible for, you know, what it used to be. I think back in the day it definitely wasn't the case. Now moving on to the side deck here. Again, take the side deck with a bit of a grain of salt. It could be a lot of different things, but I've built it to mainly address two decks really. It's mainly just like Kashtira and the Bestial deck, or the branded deck. So we have the Bestials, you know, 3 Magnamut and 1 Druis Worm, obviously for, you know, dragons, for branded, which ends up being like the main reason why I'm playing this, because the Gimmick Puppet Lock is still the Gimmick Puppet Lock. I think Droplet actually does help to beat that, because being able to Droplet Sanctifier is kind of insane, hence why I'm glad I'm playing Droplet. But you know, more insurance policy is good, I guess. Then we have 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird. Good against Flandres, good against Rickus and Avalon, good against like the Mana Dome deck, I believe in some situations, can sometimes be good against Cash, could be good against just Rogue in general. So yeah, 3 Droll. I don't think you can go wrong with Droll. And then I'm playing 2 Gamma Seal. This is here mainly as like a way to side out like 2 Regulus and side these 2 in, going second. Because this helps to go against the Kashtira boards, and it's also a level 8. That is why I'm playing this over Jizukiru, because it is a trade-in target, if we need it to be. And then I'm playing 2 Twin Twister. Luckily, this just says discard a card, doesn't have to be to the graveyard, so like going against like, if we get D-Shifter, we can still use it. If we're under Rise Heart, we can still use it. But I'm playing Twin over like Cosmic or Lightning Storm, because we play Galaxy 100, and that is going to make Lightning Storm dead a lot of the time if you see like Galaxy 100 first. Especially now that Lightning Storm is only a 2 of. So I wanted to be able to like see back removal that's always going to be live. And I figured I might as well just play Twin over Cosmic, because we are already playing life points with you know, other side deck cards like Judgment, and we're already playing life points with the Galaxy Trance. So being able to play Twin, be able to clear more back row with Twin, and also have that discard synergy, discarding Orbital, discarding Regulus, discarding Jumper, discarding the Emperor, right? So a lot of synergy with that being a discard outlet, so I wanted to play it. And of course, you have to play the 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. This card is literally insane. Can't believe it is a legal card as we speak, but it is what it is. And then we have 3 Solemn Judgment. You know, the best coverall going first card I think we could have in here. I was playing Gozen Match. You could play Gozen Match, but I wanted to play the Gamma Seals in the side deck, because I wanted more hate for like more combo decks, mainly things like Kashtira, I guess. So, and also the thing with the Lightning Storm too is it doesn't lose to anti-spell fragrance like Lightning Storm does, or Twin Twister rather doesn't lose to anti-spell like L-Storm does. But yeah, that is it for the deck profile. A little bit unorthodox, maybe a little bit different than what you were expecting, but I wanted to like put a Photon Galaxy build out there. That's probably different than what most people are playing, and it's all primarily focused around the synergy between you know, Regulus being a level 8, right? You know, 100 being a 3 of now, not only being able to send Jumper as we all know, but also being able to send Orbital, and you know, it's kind of just the main synergy of everything right there. And I do like the boards that I can put up. Regulus being an Omni Negate, again, is super huge for this deck. Needing something like an Omni Negate, I think is so incredibly important, because only being able to end on a monster negate like number 90 or a monster negate and a spell negate is really bad, considering the fact that a lot of people are not only siding evenly matched, but they are main decking evenly matched. And that is just a straight up day ruiner for this deck. Yes, you can keep number 90, but one number 90, let's face it, not going to be enough at the end of the day to stop a lot of decks. So that is it for this deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a like if you did. And as always, Winter Kill signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one. And like always, I want to give a big thank you to our current Divine level channel members who are Misfit, HH Cyber, Cadillacs 84 Green, and Pony Stark. Thank you guys so much as always for extremely kind and very, very generous support of the channel.